Okay, so in this video, we're going to add like a streak as this transition slides on in, and that'll give it a flashier look, kind of show some extra motion. It's like a secondary animation on top of the primary animation. It helps highlight it. So we're going to use a shape layer, but I want to just kind of talk about a little bit more about how shape layers work. So I just clicked and dragged. There was no layer selected, and it creates a layer called shape layer, and I'm just going to call this shapes. And in that there's a rectangle, but this layer you can add more shapes within the same layer just by I'm clicking new shapes up here, and every time I add a shape, a new shape within that shape layer is created. Now that's important because within these I guess embedded layers, you can change. So I'm going to open up Polystar, and I'm going to open up Polystar Path, and you can there's well, basically rotation properties, there's position properties, the Polystar has point properties. Basically the Polystar has a lot of properties, but let's just look at a more simple one like the rectangle. Open rectangle path, and all we have is size. You can click this chain to change if you want those parameters linked or not. Position and roundness of the edges. So that's pretty cool. And so basically we can transform the shape within these like subcategories. But notice that there's also a transform, that's not within the contents. It's the layer itself that can be transformed, and you have position, which is moving the layer as a whole, rotation, scale. So that's an important distinction to make. When you're working with shape layers, you can transform the shape itself or the whole layer. And we need to, let's see, how do I want to put this? So we need to decide with our streak what we're going to be transforming or animating. Are we going to be animating the whole layer, or are we going to be animating just the shape itself? And you can pick either one, but I think it's most efficient to animate the shape itself, and then when we make duplicates, we can transform the layer properties, scale and shape, to move it around and make more instances of that streak. Okay, so I'm going to choose the rectangle tool, and let's just go to when your transition ends. And so I might have a streak that's like this long, and I would want some rounded edges. So I'm going to open up the rectangle tool, rectangle path, or the rectangle layer, and then I'm just going to add some roundness. Okay, and then let's animate the position. So at about this point, I would want it here. And we're going to have to tweak this a little bit later, and then let's just go back. We're just kind of blocking it in, and I'm going to drag this back to here. Okay, so now we have this transition that comes on, the transition with a streak. But the streak is going to shrink, and it's not going to shrink uniformly. It's going to shrink just on the x-axis. So at this point, I like the streak that length. I'm going to uncheck this this little chain, so now I can change the length of the streak. So this is a good length right now. I'm going to insert a keyframe by clicking that stopwatch, and I'm just going to go ahead to maybe this frame and shrink this to 0. And it's going to create kind of a problem where I kind of want the streak to end right here. So I'm going to probably have to adjust this this keyframe. So really, I'm going to move the position to be more like over here. And just, I'm going to slide that keyframe a bit. So this is where you can start tweaking things quite a bit. And I don't want to waste too much time on this, so I'm just going to eyeball it. And let's just quick watch it. I want that streak to hold its position, so really this is where you just want to make something that looks good to you. But for my purposes, yeah, I'm so nitpicky that I just, that's okay, that's good enough. But you can basically tweak these keyframes to get something that you like. So I'm going to hit, I can't do my F9, but I'll do easy ease, and then we have something like that. Okay, great. So now I'm going to call this streak 1, and I'm just going to duplicate this layer. So Command D for you guys, and let's see how this looks. And let me change the fill to be something like this. So now we have 2 streaks on top of each other. But if so I'm going to click this layer and drag it to offset it in time, because here's our set of keyframes, right? And if I'm dragging it in time, this one's going to happen a little bit later. So now we have kind of a cool, but I don't want the black to be leading, because black kind of seems like a slower color to me. Who knows? Yeah, that's kind of weird. But let's see. So now, I mean, we could even label this like streak red, streak black. Let's put the streak on the bottom and maybe have it. Okay, so that's good enough. That kind of has this like this dual color action going. Okay. So now we have these, and let's just shift and select both of them, duplicate it, and then I'm going to click this one and drag it so they're both on the top. And now if I hit P to open up position, let's see where they're at. If I just slide this one down, or just, you know, with they're both selected, both of their positions are highlighted, I'm just going to click and drag this Y axis and drag like that. And maybe I'll offset it a bit, and then maybe I'll hit S, scale it down, hit P, scale it up, and then I'll give these a different color. So I'm going to give this a white and something like that. So now we have these, and they're coming in at about the same time. So let me just shift select those, offset them a bit. And as you can see, it's kind of appearing over here. So I'm going to make sure both of the position properties are selected and just slide that over. And it knows that I want them both slid at the same time. So, okay. So we're getting somewhere. I think they're a little slow. So if you think so, I'm going to select all of these layers and hit U. And if I hit the tilde key, I can just see all these keyframes. And here's a little trick. I'm going to go back to this kind of first keyframe. I'm going to select them all. And if I hold Alt, it may be Option on a Mac. If you have trouble, just ask me. And if I hold Alt and click and drag these in, it scales them proportionately. So that's just a quick way. And then I'm going to click this one arrow with all those selected. Let's see how this... That's probably too fast now. So anyways, we could just keep tweaking forever and ever. But I'm going to go to those first 2 layers, duplicate them one more time, drag them to the top. So now we can't see them because they're overlaying those. But I'm going to hit P, drag down. We'll get one more. And what would a cool color be for this? And notice they're kind of coming in a little sooner than I'd like, but maybe I'll offset these in time a little bit. And this top one can be like orange. And this one can be maybe like a blue complementary color type thing. Okay, so that is how you can do streaks. Now, I guess what I'd like to say is you want to try to figure out a process where you can do as little like work as possible and then just duplicate it and then like shift the position and scale, for example. So if you end up finding yourself, when you duplicate, if you have to do a lot of extra work, you might want to rethink your process, and maybe there's like a faster way you can do it. But there's like infinite number of ways to do things in any program. So, oftentimes you should just start working one way and then, reflect and see if you can speed up your process. But in the next video, I'll show you the last little bit, the little fireworks. But right now, this is looking decent.